Good evening, everyone. This is your evening news recap, your nightly news podcast on all the news that I come across throughout the day, giving you my take as somebody who aspires to be a politician in the near future. Hopefully, all you guys are doing wonderful. Hopefully, all you guys are well. Today is the 18th of December, and it is Sunday, not Saturday. Hopefully, all you guys are having a wonderful weekend so far. The playoffs are going on. We had an interesting day in the playoffs yesterday. Unfortunately, the 49ers did lose. The Broncos did win. But unfortunately, Bo Nix did get injured. We'll see how that goes throughout the AFC Championship game, which they will be playing against the Patriots. Right now, the Rams and Bears are playing, so I'm not too sure how that game is going. Outside of that, though, hopefully all you guys are doing well. I'm picking the Patriots to win the Super Bowl at this point, unfortunately. I would love to see the Broncos win, but I don't want to see any of the NFC teams win. Outside of that, though, hopefully all you guys are doing amazing. If you're new here, please consider subscribing on Sport. We greatly appreciate it as we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by this summer. We're getting super close to 750, so drop a subscribe to get us halfway to 800. Hell yeah, let's get there. You know, we hit 700 6 days ago, I believe, maybe a little less than that, and we're always growing pretty quickly on here. So thank you for all the support, and drop a like as well, drop a comment as well. And if you're on Substack, also please consider subscribing. It's $8 a month. All funds go to me. Helps me pay for the things that I need to pay for in my life, like my groceries, like my clothing, like all those kinds of things. But with that being said, that's pretty much all the things we have for today. So let's get into the episode. Moving on into our headlines and history, we're not going to cover yesterday's, but we will cover today's as as this is a topic from January 18th of 1977, where somebody or Gilmore is executed after Stay is upset. Let's do it, he said. I don't know what this is, so let's do it. The Times reported Gary Gilmore as saying after the warden of the Utah State Prison asked if he had any last words before facing the firing squad. It is the first execution in the United States in 10 years after a nationwide de facto moratorium of death penalty was lifted in 1976. Oh, I know what this is. Mr. Gilmore, who had been sentenced to death for murder of Ben Bushnell, had expressed his wish to die and been rejected by opponents in the capital punishment who had tried to intercede on his behalf. In 1980, Norman Mailer, won the Pulitzer Prize for the fiction for the Executioner's Song, based on Mr. Gilmore's life. Since 1977, only 2 other U.S. inmates, both in Utah, have died by firing squad. So yeah, that was the first execution by firing squad after they made it illegal. And of course, all of them have taken place in Utah since then, which is also like a really interesting situation, I guess. I don't know if that's something based on Utah laws. It might be. I'm not entirely sure about the laws in Utah. Maybe that's a Utah law that makes that legal. But it's really interesting that that is happened there, and that it's only happened there. I don't know how I feel about executing prisoners. I will be completely honest with you. If they've killed someone, I think that they should, have to experience that themselves. Maybe that's just me personally. Outside of that, though, I, I think if someone's a pedophile, absolutely, they should go. And outside of that, I think I'm not too sure. I got to do some more research on the effects of that and stuff like that personally before I make a full opinion on that. There are certain people that I believe should for sure, but I don't know about that as a whole. Outside of that, though, hopefully all you guys are doing well, and let's get into today's episode. Moving on into the Trump administration segment, as we do, the first topic we have today is Trump has imposed tariffs on Europe until he gets Greenland. Trump has announced any country in Europe that does not support his goals to take Greenland will face a 10% tariff. In a post on Truth Social, he wrote, "We have subsidized Denmark and all of the countries of the European Union and others for many years by not charging them tariffs or any other forms of remuneration. Now, after centuries, it is time for Denmark to give back. World peace is at stake. China and Russia want Greenland, and there is not a thing that Denmark can do about it. They currently have 2 dog sleds as protection, one added recently. Only the United States of America under President Donald J. Trump can play this game, and it's very successful at that. Nobody will touch this sacred piece of land, especially since the national security of the United States and the world is at large, is at stake. On top of everything else, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland have journeyed together to Greenland for the purposes unknown. This is a very dangerous situation for safety, security, and survival of our planet. These countries who are playing this dangerous game have put a level of risk in play that is not tenable or sustainable. Therefore, it is imperative that in order to protect global peace and security, strong measures be taken so that this potentially perilous situation can end quickly and without question. Starting on February 1st of 2026, all the above mentioned countries, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, France, Germany, the United Kingdom, the Netherlands, and Finland, will be charged a 10% tariff on any and all goods sent to the United States of America. On June 1st, 2026, that tariff will be increased to 25%. This tariff will be due and payable until such time as deal is reached and for a complete and total purchase of Greenland. The United States has been trying to do this transaction for over 150 years. Many presidents have tried, and for good reason, but Denmark has always refused. And now, because of the Golden Dome and modern day weapon systems, both offensive and defensive, they need to acquire this especially important, or the need to acquire this is especially important. Hundreds of billions of dollars are currently being spent on security programs having to do with the dome, including for possible protection on Canada, and this very brilliant but highly complex system can only work at its maximum potential and efficiency because of the angles, meters, meets, and bounds in the land included in it. The United States of America is immediately open to negotiation with Denmark and or these countries that have put so much at risk, despite all of that we have done for them, including maximum protection over so many decades. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I find it really interesting that he says he needs it for the Golden Dome, when I'm pretty sure when he was campaigning, he said that the Golden Dome was going to be, prepared for the United States of America. And I don't believe he mentioned that it would need, Greenland for it. But hey, that one's quite interesting. I mean, this man is torching our allies in Europe and our influence in Europe as we speak. And, it's not going to go well for us at all. It really won't. We don't need Greenland in the slightest. We can do whatever we want there when it comes to the military, and they're a NATO member. We are actively working with them, right? We have no reason to attack them unless they want resources. I mean, they've got the oil, they've got the rare earth minerals, they've got future Arctic trade routes, along with much, much more. But it's not being done for national security. It's being done to expand the American empire and American imperialism, under a very extremely incompetent administration. And I'm going to be real. At some point, this is going to backfire on them. It really always does. So, you look at history, when people expand too much, it doesn't go well. In other news, the Department of Defense is preparing 2 military battalions to deploy in Minnesota. Up to 1,500 active U.S. troops are being prepared for deployment in Minnesota, according to a U.S. official in a new report from NPR. These troops are located in Alaska and are from the Army's 11th Airborne Division, specializing in cold weather operations. The Minnesota National Guard was previously activated by Tim Walz to assist law enforcement, but not ICE, and it is very likely that if the Army is deployed, they will be given the order to assist ICE in their operations. Whether this happens or not is unknown, but I see more and more videos coming out of Minnesota every day. A lot is going on there, so I wouldn't be shocked at all. Now, if this does happen, I hope the military chooses not to assist ICE. But, to be honest, I'm not sure what will happen there. And by assist, I don't mean that the military is going to be doing these raids, right? It's likely going to be them following ICE and acting as a form of protective shields, rather than, assisting in these raids and taking part in these raids. I highly doubt the military would ever do that. But I wouldn't doubt that they, act as a shield for ICE while they go out and kidnap people, which is an actual problem. It's a massive problem. But as always, I'll keep you guys updated as the situation goes on. In other news, Trump is seeking $1 billion from countries to serve on his board of peace. A draft charter sent to 60 countries by the Trump administration calls for members to contribute $1 billion in cash if they want to reach or want to be a member for his new board of peace. According to Bloomberg, the document reads, each member state shall serve a term of no more than 3 years from this charter, entry into the force, subject to change by renewal of the chairman. The 3-year membership shall not apply to member states that contribute more than USD $1 billion in cash funds to the Board of Peace within the first year of the Charter's entry into the force. I really highly doubt anyone is going to give Trump $1 billion to be on his Board of Peace. Maybe a handful of countries, but I, really highly doubt anyone relevant, right? I honestly don't know who would. Maybe Israel, maybe El Salvador, maybe Japan. Like a handful of Middle Eastern countries or Asian countries. But honestly, like there is not many people I really see, going out there and teaming up with Trump. I know there is a lot of fascism on the rise throughout the world and a lot of far right ideologies on the rise throughout the world, which is a massive issue. But I don't know, that the Trump administration is favored enough for countries to want to do this, especially with the fact that you're giving Trump $1 billion. Like he doesn't say that it's going to the United States, which kind of seems like a common theme recently. Just saying. Anyways, moving on into our ICE segment for today. ICE is now demanding proof of citizenship across Minneapolis. ICE agents across Minneapolis are stopping U.S. citizens and demanding them to show proof of citizenship. One man stopped Gage Giego. I'm probably pronouncing this horrifically. It is spelled Giego Garcia. Told NBC about his experience. He said, they came off pretty aggressive, asking for my ID. I refused because I hadn't done nothing wrong. He said that he blew the whistle on his neck, which led to ICE agents getting angry at him and grabbing him. In the video that he showed, it displayed officers pressing him, swearing at him, calling him a bitch, and saying that he was going to learn the fucking hard way. Um, just to remind you all, like this is not information that you have to provide to these ICE officers. You don't have to tell them if you're a citizen or not. You don't have to provide your ID. You don't have to provide any proof at all. That's not something you should forget. Please remember your rights in these situations. I know that they get scary. I know that in those situations you kind of just tend to, or many people kind of just tend to comply and want to listen, but you shouldn't. These people do not have the right to ask you for that information. It is your private and personal information that you do not have to share. And ICE needs to go. They're a terrorist organization, and they are actively just threatening to people to get what they want. I mean, it's every video, it's every situation, it's every single day. We see it literally every day. They threaten people. They shove a gun in someone's face. They shoot someone, or they go after a family. They go after a group of people. It is an every single day thing, and it's got to end. We have another topic here that's a great one when it comes to ICE, where Virginia police is ending cooperation with ICE, but we need to see that on a wide scale variety. Every single state should be ending their cooperation with ICE. Every single city should be ending their cooperation with ICE. Everywhere in this country should not be cooperating with ICE. They are a terrorist organization that should be shut down. Anyways, moving on into that next topic, Virginia Governor Abigail Spanberger has moved to end all cooperation between state police and ICE. This repeals former Governor Glenn Youngkin's Executive Order 47, which required the state police and their Department of Corrections to enter an agreement with ICE. Governor Spanberger's order reads, this executive order rescinds Order 47, which requires and encourages state and local law enforcement to divert their limited resources for use in enforcing federal civil immigration laws. The order states, ensuring public safety in Virginia requires state and local law enforcement to be focused on their core responsibilities of investigating and deterring criminal activity, staffing jails, and community engagement. This is absolutely great news, and as I said, more states need to do this. They need to go out there and end their cooperation with ICE. We should not be working with terrorists who are actively willing to attack our people. We have seen this on a daily basis. Just the other day, we talked about ICE flashbanging and attacking a car full of children with tear gas. Like, they do not care. They are attacking whoever they wish, and we need lawmakers to defund ICE as well. If a Democrat wants your vote in the midterms, they need to come out and say that they are going to defund ICE at the very least. ICE should be abolished in its whole, but at the bare minimum, they should be wanting to defund it. Bare minimum. along with a list of other things like wanting to impeach Trump and so much more, right? ICE needs to go. So does this administration. And it's something we need good candidates in office for if we want that to happen. We can't just have the people who are going to do jack shit. We need the people who are going to get stuff done, like the Zohran Mamdanis, like the AOCs, like the Bernie Sanders, the people who actually care about you, the people who care about, working for you and supporting you as an American citizen. Anyways, moving on to our other news segment for today. Gavin Newsom has denied the genocide in Gaza. Gavin Newsom had Ben Shapiro on his podcast recently. During the episode, they discussed plenty of things going on in California, but they also denied the genocide by Israel in the Gaza Strip. Shapiro told Newsom that Israel was not committing a genocide, to which Newsom agreed. He said, I understand the tendency for people to make that, to assert that basis on the images and the proportionality. And he went on to say, I don't know the definition, I don't know the legal threshold, but he told Shapiro, I agree with you. There is a genocide in Gaza. That's the truth. There's no other way around that. There's no excusing that. Children are dying, babies are dying, hospitals are being blown up, people are being killed off. Israel is not allowing food to get into the strip. A genocide is actively happening there. That is just the facts. Gavin Newsom should never be president. I've said that before. I'm going to continue to say that. As somebody who was born and raised in California, we do not want Gavin Newsom as president. He would be a horrific option. He is a horrible governor and has horrible policies already. Sure, he calls out Trump. That's great. Yeah, great. He calls out Trump. Everybody should be doing that, though. That should be like a thing that everybody should be doing, not just Gavin Newsom. We should not just be glazing Gavin Newsom because he's willing to call out the Trump administration. Literally everybody should be doing that by now. If Gavin Newsom was an actual governor, here's what he would have done by now. Here's what I would have done by now if I was the governor of California. I would have pulled all state taxes from federal funds. I would no longer be paying any form of California taxes to the federal government at this point. All of those would be put into California, being put to benefit Californians. Not to mention that, Gavin Newsom has horrific policies when it comes to affordability. He has horrific policies when it comes to the homeless population and so much more. Like, there are so many things that Gavin Newsom could be doing to be a great governor, but he's not. Not to mention, if he really wanted to counteract the Trump administration, he could say, ICE, get the hell out. And, he has taken that, method. He has tried to attempt that, but it's failed. ICE is still in California, and he very well could take actual attempts to get ICE out of California. There are more things to do than just saying it. If you say it, why don't you mean it? Why don't you actually go do it? There are a plethora of things that Gavin Newsom could be doing to block this administration, yet he doesn't. Because he's the establishment Democrat. And at the end of the day, they really don't care. Hello, Ducky. He says hello. He just had to assert himself into the conversation. Well, bye, sir. He says goodbye. He had opinions on that. Anyways, Gavin Newsom is a massive problem. And we're going to wrap this up by saying that he is an establishment Democrat. He is an issue. We do not need people like that in office. We need leaders who care about our future, not who care about leaving things the way they are. Anyways, moving on, Canada has announced that they will defend Greenland. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney has reiterated that the country's support for Greenland and their willingness to defend it from the United States going forward. Carney said during his visit to Beijing, the future of Greenland is decided by Greenland and Denmark, not the United States. He said that Canada fully supports both Articles 2 and 5 of the NATO treaty. And Carney also said that he spoke with President Xi Jinping of China, and that he said that they both agree that there is an issue with the United States wanting to take Greenland. We are playing right into the hands of countries like Russia and China by doing things like this. They want our allies to be against us and vice versa. I'm glad Carney is willing to defend Greenland. It's a very important thing to do, and it says a lot because Canada, of course, is right on the border of the United States. They've got a lot of own issues internally right now as well. I have a lot of Canadian friends. I talk a lot about Canadian politics quite frequently. And they do have their own inner issues right now, but they're willing to defend a country that they should be defending. There is a lot of worry from people within Canada that if the United States takes Greenland, they're positioning themselves to essentially jump Canada from three sides. That is a huge worry coming out of Canada right now. It's something that my friends have expressed to me. and hopefully a conflict does not happen here. But I'm not going to say that it isn't, impossible. And if it does happen, I really do hope that the United States loses, because we don't need something like the Trump administration to go off rampant. We've seen it in history before with Germany. We've seen it throughout the world, and it's not something that we need to continue to see. In other news, families in Minnesota are volunteering to patrol communities to protect schools. Families in Minnesota have started patrolling the streets around schools to protect children from ICE activity, using things like walkie talkies, group chats, and whistles to warn people about ICE going on and operating in the areas. These parents have volunteered, doing it because they believe their kids are unsafe and need to be protected in these communities. This comes as ICE has frequently attacked citizens, even many children and high schoolers, with multiple cases appearing essentially regularly at this point. I'm glad to see that parents are doing this because it's really sad that this even has to be happening, in the first place. These people could be working, they could be enjoying time off from work, but no, they're patrolling, and protecting, their kids from a threat that shouldn't exist in the first place. It's a threat that's being propped up, being set up by our own government, which shouldn't exist, and it's a massive issue. And if you don't have a problem with that, you honestly really, really should. We shouldn't have to worry about threats from our own government. We shouldn't have to worry about people in our own government attacking us. It's nothing anyone should ever have to deal with. Anyways, moving on into our final topic for tonight, a far-right rioter has been chased out of Minnesota. Conservative influencer Jake Ling has organized a pro-ICE and anti-Islam protest on social media in Minneapolis, and they were chased out of the city by anti-MAGA protesters. Ling plans to burn the Quran on the steps of the city hall, along with much, much more pro-MAGA things. Ling and his group clashed with the anti-MAGA protesters, to which Ling's group was extremely small compared to. There were hundreds of people who were against the Trump administration and ICE there, and I believe it said that there were a handful. I didn't get an exact number of how many people he had there. As Ling left, it appeared that he had been injured with bruises and scrapes all over his head. This same man, of course, was a previous January 6th rioter who had been charged with assaulting an officer with a baseball bat, civil disorder, along with other crimes. It's good to see that Nazis aren't being allowed to preach hate speech in the streets. It shouldn't be allowed. If we can't have our freedom of speech to talk about things that we actually need, talk about actually protecting ourselves, talk about fighting back against a government who actually wants to kill its people and, take away from its people, take advantage of its people, why should they be allowed to preach hate speech? That's just not something that we should allow in the slightest. Just as ICE officers to get smacked up, so do these people who are dumb enough to think Trump and ICE are good, truly. Do we need to educate these people? Yes, we need to let them know that this is not okay. We need to let them know why this isn't okay and why they shouldn't be supporting this. Absolutely. But we also need to stop them from causing more damage. And that's something that they have been very clearly willing to display that they are able to do and willing to do. They did it on January 6th, and this is just the less time for that. It's going to happen. It was bound to happen eventually. It really was. And hopefully the side who cares about humanity and cares about actually having a better future can prevail. With that being said, though, thank you everyone for watching today's episode. I hope you all enjoyed it. It's definitely been a very interesting day in the news world. That is for sure. If you're new here, though, please consider subscribing. All the support would be greatly appreciated as we are trying to reach 1,000 subscribers on YouTube by this summer. If you're on Substack, please consider subscribing as well. It's $8 a month. All funds go to me. Helps me pay for the things that I need to pay for in my life, like my groceries, like my clothing, all of that. Drop a comment, drop a like as well. Helps the video, helps me do better on all my platforms. Truly, it does. So 7 words for the algorithm. It's truly greatly appreciated. But with that being said, I think that's all we have for today. Did some thrifting yesterday. That was why there was no episode. Went out and had a good time before school started. Kind of got some relaxation and found some cool finds and all of that. But that's all I have for today. So I will see you all in tomorrow's episode. Later, guys. Have a good one.